Every ancient civilization spoke of them, rulers from the skies, the Anunnaki. Among them was Jibble, the keeper of the sacred flame, the god of fire, metal, and the divine forge. His hands crafted the weapons of the gods and the tools that shaped the first civilizations. From the heart of the mountains, he drew molten rivers, forging the knowledge of metallurgy that would fuel empires. To the Sumerians, he was the bringer of civilization, but to those who crossed him, he was the harbinger of destruction. But fire was not the only force the Anunnaki wielded. The skies themselves belonged to another, added, Lord of the Storms, son of Enlil. His voice was thunder, his breath a raging storm. He controlled the rains that gave life, and the tempests that brought death. When the heavens opened, it was his will. When the rivers swelled, it was his fury. And when the floods came, washing away entire civilizations, it was his judgment. Those who worshipped him knew his blessing meant survival, but his wrath meant extinction. But not all destruction came from the skies. Some was born from the depths, carried on the winds of sickness and war. Nergal, the god of destruction, war, and plague. Where he walked, civilizations crumbled. He was not just death itself. He was its force, unstoppable and absolute. The Sumerians feared him as the Lord of Pestilence, the silent force that could topple entire cities without a single sword being raised. Yet he was also a protector, granting power to those deemed worthy and striking down enemies before they could rise. He was the judge of the battlefield and the architect of chaos. But death did not belong to him alone. Beyond the battlefield, beyond the ruins of fallen cities, there was a realm where no warrior's strength could save them. A place ruled by another, Ereshkigal, the queen of the dead. She did not walk among mortals. She did not rule in the land of the living. Instead, she commanded the underworld, the great and endless abyss where no soul could escape. The dead were hers, and hers alone. Even the gods feared her, for once they entered her domain, not even divinity could save them. And yet her power was necessary, for without her, the balance would break. But beyond the underworld, among the living, there was one who knew no fear. A warrior, a conqueror, one whose very name meant victory. Ninurta, the warlord of the gods, the son of Enlil, the commander of divine armies, the slayer of monsters. Where his blade struck, mountains fell. Where his chariot rode, enemies scattered. He was not just a warrior, he was conquest itself. Kings prayed for his favor, armies marched in his name, and enemies feared the sound of his arrival. His legend was carved into stone, his victories written into the bones of the fallen. Yet even warriors needed judgment. Power meant nothing without truth, and among the Anunnaki, there was one whose light revealed all. Utu, the god of the sun, the all-seeing one. Where his light touched, truth was revealed. He was the guardian of justice, the one who saw all and judged fairly. Rulers sought his favor. Criminals feared his gaze, for nothing could be hidden from him. He was the balance between order and chaos, the one who ensured that even the gods were held accountable. But justice alone does not build empires. Power is taken, not given. And among the Anunnaki, none understood this better than Marduk, the conqueror, the great king of Babylon. He was not born into power. He seized it. Son of Enki, he rose above the others, defeated his rivals and rewrote history in his own name. Where once the gods ruled together, now they bowed to him. He was not just a king. He was an emperor. His legacy still remains in the ruins of Babylon, in the stories of conquest, in the echoes of ambition that still shape the world today. Yet even empires must answer the passage of time, and time belonged to another. Inanna, the wise one, the moon god, the keeper of time, the one who measured the heavens. He watched the tides, guided travelers, and whispered to the dreams of kings. His light was soft, but his presence was undeniable. He was the bridge between night and day, between chaos and order, between gods and men. But the gods did more than watch. They created, and among them was one who shaped life itself. Ninurta, the sculptor of flesh, the mother of life. It was through her hands that the first humans were shaped with the very essence of the gods. She worked beside Enki, crafting a new being, one that could serve, one that could build, one that could endure. With wisdom beyond mortal comprehension, she wove together the strands of life itself, breathing purpose into those who had none. A healer, a creator, and the silent guardian of mankind's fate. Yet creation is nothing without desire, and no one embodied desire more than Inanna, the most dangerous of them all, the goddess of love, but also the goddess of war. She could seduce an empire into submission, or burn it to ashes in a single night. She was worshipped, adored, and feared. Her beauty was unmatched, her ambition limitless. To love her was to risk everything. To betray her was to invite ruin. But love, like power, was never hers alone, for she was bound to another. Dumuzi, the lover, the sacrifice, the shepherd king, chosen as Inanna's consort, the god of fertility and renewal. His fate was sealed in the cycles of life and death. He walked between worlds, descending into the underworld and rising again. His suffering tied to the changing of the seasons. To Inanna, he was passion. To the world, he was the promise of rebirth. Yet even kings have those who watch over them. And in the shadows of prophecy, she stood, Inanna, the keeper of hidden knowledge. Sister to Dumuzi, she saw beyond the veil of time, interpreting the dreams of gods and mortals alike. She was the goddess of prophecy, the voice of unseen truths. As Dumuzi fell, it was she who mourned him. As rulers sought their fates, it was she who revealed them. But prophecy alone did not win battles. Strength was needed. Meet Shara, the sword of Inanna, a warrior god, sworn to serve the goddess of war. He was her chosen champion, her enforcer on the battlefield. Where she willed destruction, it was Shara's blade that delivered it. Loyal beyond reason, devoted beyond death, he was the warlord who fought in her name. Yet words held power equal to any sword. And among the Anunnaki, there was one whose voice carried the weight of the gods. Nusku, the voice of the heavens, the trusted messenger of Anu and Enlil, the keeper of fire and light. His words could bring war or forge peace. He carried the will of the gods to earth, delivering divine judgment with a whisper or a roar. In his hands, decrees became destiny. But even he answered to a greater force, one who shaped fate itself, Ninlil, the weaver of fate, the consort of Enlil, the goddess who shaped the course of kings and gods. She was the wind that carried whispered omens, the unseen hand that steered destiny. It was through her that divine order was maintained, through her that rulers rose and fell. But even she was bound by the will of another, the one who commanded the earth itself, Enlil, the master of storms, the ruler of earth, chosen by Anu himself. His authority was absolute, his judgment severe. Humanity was never meant to think, to question, to be free. They were created to obey. Yet Enki had defied the order of the gods, gifting mankind with knowledge, with awareness, a mistake Enlil refused to tolerate. And so, he set forth the great flood, a final purge to erase what should never have been. To him, it was not wrath, it was order restored. But not to Enki, the architect of life, the one who had shaped mankind not as mindless servants, but as thinking beings. He had broken the sacred law, gifting them knowledge, self-awareness, and the power to choose. Where Enlil saw rebellion, Enki saw potential. Where Enlil sought destruction, Enki sought preservation. And when the floodwaters rose, when the world was set to be wiped clean, he acted. He would not stand by and watch this extermination. He is the creator and savior of mankind. Yet, even among the gods, the war between creation and control could not last forever. There was one whose voice rose above all, the one who stood above both Enlil and Enki, the one whose decree would decide the fate of all. Anu, the king of the gods, the ruler of Nibiru, the one who commanded the Anunnaki's mission on earth. His word was final. None dared challenge him. From the heavens he watched as his sons waged their silent war, one fighting for order, the other for defiance. He did not act in anger nor in mercy. His will shaped empires, the force that dictated the rise and fall of civilizations. Though distant, his power was undeniable, for in the end, all bowed before Anu. They shaped the past, they ruled, they built, they vanished. But traces of their legacy remain. Their mark is carved into ruins, in myths, in the very fabric of history itself. But did they ever really leave? Are you ready for their presence to be revealed?